Oh, I'm sorry. Do I need to repeat all of that? This is our second meeting of the month where most official votes are taken, many of which are listed on a consent agenda, which includes those items which are routine or have been discussed at our work session last week. All agendas and related public documents are posted on the district website. Please join me for the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Martin, do we have attendance, please?
We have 5 directors present tonight. Absent are Mr. Hurst, Ms. Trowbridge, Mrs. Fisher, and Mr. Talley. We do have a quorum in place.
Also notice that the superintendent, most of the administrative cabinet are also here. Are there any changes for the agenda?
Yes, language for consent agenda item G was updated to reflect a consent agenda approval, not a presentation and review as originally posted. Also, the IU reports were added today.
If there are no other changes, additions, or deletions, could I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Are there any nays or abstentions? If not, the agenda is approved. We'll get on with the board commendations. Congratulations to 8 senior student athletes at Conestoga Valley High School who committed to playing their respective sports at the collegiate level at the school's National Signing Day ceremony. They are Allison Colbert, Garrett Daniels, Jason DeChristopher, Grace Harrison, Brandon Hirsch, Tommy Livingston, Gabrielle Moore, and Evan Wilson. Congratulations to 3 Conestoga Valley High School choir members who represented CV at the 2025 PMEA, that's Pennsylvania Music Educators Association District 7 Chorus Festival. Mallory Marshall, Caleb Noel, and Gwen Unruh. Also, they all successfully auditioned for the PMEA Regional 5 Choir. They are among just 25 singers from 15 Pennsylvania counties in their respective voice parts to earn a spot in the elite performing group. Congratulations to Emmett Lane, first grade, for being recognized as a West Earl Lions Club Student of the Month. And congratulations to Riley Hershey, who was named to the CVVA High School Student of the Month, and to Layla Brokopak, who was named to the CVVA Middle School Student of the Month. Dr. Hartman.
Good evening. I don't have many updates beyond what's in my written report this month. If you notice, I have no new personnel to introduce this evening, although there are quite a few new approvals on the board agenda, primarily part-time supplemental positions and coaching positions, et cetera. But I just think it is worth noting one retirement that you'll note, Dean Kunkel, longtime teacher at the high school, retiring. He's definitely a teacher leader in the district that'll be missed, retiring at the end of the year. He taught German, Spanish, and French for us. Our retirement notifications were due here just recently, within the last few weeks. At this point, we only have 5 total retirements that we have been made aware of so far in the district. So a little bit of a late year, but that's a good thing. But did want to recognize Mr. Kunkel for his service and for informing us that he would be retiring at the conclusion of this school year, because he certainly had a great career here at CV. So other than that, I have some other things I'll be reporting on later on in the agenda, so I'll keep my comments brief. But I do want to point out that as we speak right now at 7 o'clock, our boys basketball team tipped off in districts at Mechanicsburg. I think the first time in quite a while that they've made the district playoffs. So keep your fingers crossed that they have a good game right now. So that concludes my report.
Are there any board comments on district activity? If not, do we have any, excuse me, any correspondence?
Yeah, just wanted to bring to note the form in front of you for PSBA travel insurance. Just get that filled out and returned to me as soon as you can.
Dr. Hartman, I'll turn it back over to you for your presentation.
Sure. All right. That was quick. So, want to take a few minutes this evening and share about an opportunity that we've been working on that I'm excited about, and I believe some other members of our team are pretty excited about. It's something I've shared with the board previously. Last year I began talking about this a little bit, but haven't provided a formal update. So we've been working with Millersville University as well as the Center for Schools and Communities for about the past year and a half on the potential of bringing a principal residency program into our district. And so I want to talk a little bit about what that looks like and what this partnership has looked like in the planning that we've done over the last year and where we plan on going moving forward, just to keep the board and the public in the loop on our efforts. So as everybody's well aware, we talk about an educator shortage. And certainly we've talked ad nauseum about the teacher shortage that's out there, but that has sort of had a trickle up effect with negatively impacting the amount of educators who want to go into leadership positions and the principal and other administrative positions. So we've been thinking creatively about ways to address that shortage for quite some time. Anybody who knows me and listens to me long enough has heard me say I believe that the educator shortage is probably the biggest out of all the challenges we face, in my opinion, the biggest crisis we face in education. And so I've talked a lot over the last year or so about grow your own programs and different initiatives to try to think creatively about getting individuals into the education field. And this is one aspect of that, only this is looking more at the administrative level. So at the national, state, and local levels, we've seen a significant decrease in educators going to administration. Just to give a local context to it, of our 15 current building level administrators in the district, 11 of them, so principals and APs, 11 of our 15 principals and assistant principals were external hires, which isn't a negative. That's not a bad thing. We'd like to see a little bit more of a balance, though. We know there's merit to trying to grow your own and to create your own pipelines for leadership and get people ready for those positions. So there's also a lot of evidence and a lot of research out there that supports really the principals being the linchpin in the district for culture and climate. In fact, there's been multiple studies replicated that show the quality of a principal is probably the number one factor in whether a teacher decides to stay or leave in their position. You often hear say people don't quit jobs, they quit bosses, leadership matters. So that's kind of the why behind why we began pursuing this opportunity. So a little bit about what we've been working on. Beginning last year, Millersville was awarded a planning grant by the Department of Education for an innovative principal, what they call Prep to Practice initiative at the state level. And so in the summer of 2023, Millersville and the Center for Schools and Community, who's helping them with this grant, reached out to me about CV being a participant. They had heard that we were potentially interested. So beginning last fall, we formed a planning committee that was comprised of Dr. Tiffany Wright from Millersville University, Celeste Morris from the Center for Schools and Community, myself, Dr. Kozer, Dr. Mann, Randy Smith, our HR director, several teachers that we identified in the district who had recently completed their principal certificate, and Dr. Fox, and at the time, Kathleen Hernandez, who was a principal, no longer with us, was a part of that team. So we spent last year working with Millersville, working with the Center for Schools and Community, based on a planning grant that came from the state to really develop what a principal residency program would look like at CV. So fast forward a little bit, in June of last year, I actually had the opportunity to present along with Millersville and the Center for Schools and Community at the Advancing Education Summit in Harrisburg, which is a PDE-sponsored event, to try to drum up some support for it. So where we're at now, that was last year. Fast forward to this year, we're continuing to work on looking at funding. So what the situation we're in now is that last year the state received, or Millersville received a planning grant. Now they're sort of in a holding pattern to see if they get an implementation grant from the state that would cover the costs of operating a program. So what we've decided, because the state has been sort of mum on whether or not that funding is going to continue or not. Millersville has been actively seeking alternative funding. They're looking at some private grants opportunities out there, looking at some national grants as well. So we're sort of in a holding pattern right now, but we're still actively behind the scenes working on what this will look like when and if that funding becomes available for us to be able to implement. So in a nutshell, what this program would offer would be a 2-year residency program for teachers who are pursuing their principal certificate. So think about when we talk about a residency, the residency model in medicine. But we have a framework of a plan in place. And what we're doing at this point is we're continuing to advocate for PDE to fund implementation grants so we could continue to support a program such as this. We're also seeking alternative funding sources, as I mentioned earlier, and we're continuing to work with Millersville to develop the program application, interview process, program guidelines, et cetera. And so the reason I'm presenting on this tonight is in March, we would like it to be an agenda item for the board just to approve of us continuing this work. There would never be a resident approved before it would come to the board for approval, almost like we approve a new employee. So even though we don't have funding secured at this point, we think having evidence and having documentation that the board is in support of a program may help us gain some of that funding in the future as we go out and we seek grant opportunities, whether they be private grants or publicly funded grants. Knowing that the school board is behind us in these efforts, we think would help us possibly secure some of that future funding. So I'm presenting tonight. There's nothing to approve tonight, but in March, we're looking to put it on the agenda, and we're going to have to work on what our wording is for this, but to approve the partnership with Millersville University and for us to continue seeking out funding, because we don't want to continue to put the work in if it's not something that's going to be supported by the board and by the community. But we do think it's a good opportunity, and having it approved doesn't mean we have to utilize it if the funding's not there, but it just means when the funding is there, we can sort of move forward. We don't have to start from scratch with the process. So be happy to answer any questions.
You said this was a 2-year internship, but as I read this, it's actually a 5-year commitment.
Part of the process would be, yeah, it's similar to like reimbursement for tuition and things like that. If we were to put a candidate through this program and they were to leave our district within 3 years, there would be they would owe us some of that time back, similar to what we do now with tuition reimbursement for things. So yes, there is a commitment there on the participants' end. As we want to invest in our folks, but we also want them to be that commitment that if we're investing our time and our energy and our money and our effort into that, we want you to put those skills that you're going to learn to use here at CV, hopefully, not somewhere else.
It also says they get a guarantee of an equivalent or similar position. How do we find a place for that? I don't mean at CV, I mean anywhere.
I'm not sure what exactly you're referring to there.
It says teacher residents also receive a guarantee of an equivalent or similar position upon completion of the program.
That means they're similar to when a teacher goes on a sabbatical. The position they left is going to be there for them when they return. So if they're a second grade teacher,
okay.
They're going back to be a second grade teacher once they've completed this program, if they don't go into an administrative position.
Okay, I thought it was saying they were guaranteed an administrative
No,
position.
it's the position they're going to, they're not losing that, whatever position they're vacating to complete this residency program, they're not losing that position.
Yeah. I did not read in detail all 82 pages you provided us with as links, but I was looking for some idea of what the cost was, and even in the templates, I couldn't begin to figure out what it might cost.
Sure, we have that all costed out, and that's I can provide that. So it's roughly a first-year teacher's salary, because we'd be hiring a long-term sub, and the tuition cost above and beyond what we already would reimburse based on the collective bargaining agreement. And also, there's some ancillary costs. We're looking at a potential stipend for mentor principals and for the participants as well. So we do have that all costed out. Like I said, at this point, our plan is for this to be a grant-funded project. So we're hoping it's cost neutral. But I can get you to, if worst case scenario, if this were to be something that we were to fund, what it would cost, we can provide that. In fact, in a grant that we just recently applied for, we have that all laid out.
Do we have buy-in by our administration? Because it looks rather work-intensive too, with the work requirements, the reporting requirements.
It does, yeah. We have individuals that we're working with right now who we feel would be good mentors for it.
Okay. Any other questions? There was a lot to read in that implementation plan. Athletic budget.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I submitted a PowerPoint. The first 9 slides are pretty much the same, and mainly just listing all of the sports that we have. So nothing has really changed there. So Dr. Hartman, once you get that up, if you want to skip up to slide 10, unless anybody has any questions on those first 9, just all of our sports. One thing I will say about the sports that we currently have, the PIAA has approved flag football for girls. So there's a lot of buzz. If you haven't heard the buzz, flag football is a buzz. And then girls wrestling is becoming extremely popular as well. We do not have that here, as you know. We haven't had a ton of interest. We've been trying to gauge interest, but we haven't had a ton of interest. We have had some girls that would come out for the team, and then once the season started, they would drop off from the team, you know, maybe 2 or 3 at the most. I can't say why. I'm guessing because there's not a separate girls team, but that's just my assumption. But that is a growing sport. It's becoming very popular around the league and around the state. So just something that could be on the horizon for CV. And then once we get to slide 10, these are the participation rates. I left last year's participation rates up because I was surprised at the drop. As you can see, we did drop not by a huge percentage, but there was a little bit of a drop both at the high school and the middle school. And then there was also a drop for the 2-sport and 3-sport athletes. We count on 2 and 3-sport athletes at CV. We are what I always say, the small big school. The PIAA classifies schools by enrollment, and based on the sport, there could be 3 classifications, 4 classifications, or 6 classifications. So for instance, right now, Dr. Hartman brought up our boys basketball team. We are in the largest classification, and we are one of the smallest schools in that classification. So we really rely on those 2 and 3-sport athletes to fill our teams. So to see those numbers going down, I'm not too concerned yet, because there's always a fluctuation from year to year. But if this continues on for the next 2, 3, 4 years, you know, then we'll have to, each year I'll be looking into why that is and what we can do to improve that. One thing that has increased, though, are the team GPAs, and I was very excited about this. This is the first year since I have been here that every single team had a 3.0 or above. And we increased the overall average GPA from a 3.3 to a 3.5 from last year. So I was really proud of that. That's a very, very, very good showing in the classroom. This was a new event for the athletic department this year, the National Girls and Women in Sports Day Clinic. So the first Wednesday of every February is National Girls and Women in Sports Day. The Women's Sports Foundation has designated that day. What we did to celebrate that day was offered a free clinic for girls in grades 1 through 6 to show them all of the sports that we offer for girls. And it was timely because, as you saw on 2 slides earlier, there was a drop in female participants. So this was pretty timely. We wanted to show the young girls all the sports that we offer. We had stations that were 13 minutes each. Then they rotated to the next sport, The coaches and the athletes of those sports on both the junior high and high school levels were the volunteers that introduced those sports to the kids. And it was so fun. It was such a great day. We had 66 participants. I think we can only go up. There were so many people that registered that emailed me and said, I'm so sorry, my daughter can't make it, she's sick, or whatever the case may be. So that was a lot of fun for the girls. It was a long day, but I asked some of the parents what the kids thought of it being a long day. I said, were they tired? And they said they weren't tired, they loved it, or if they were tired, they didn't show it until they got home. So it ended up being a great day. And then that last bullet point there tells you a little bit about National Girls and Women in Sports Day. And then the next slide are just a couple of pictures that Katie Odell took for us. And then on the commendation report, you saw that we had student athletes that were introduced at the college commitment ceremony for continuing their academic and athletic careers at the college level. I always put a slide in here about the Buckskins Activities Alliance to make sure that everybody is aware of what that is and what we do. Does anybody have any questions so far on anything? Okay. And now we get to the budget. Excuse me. So as you can see, you probably saw the final number was about $30,000 more than last year's presentation. That is mainly due to our officials, our uniforms, our officials and our uniforms are the main two increases. We do have some more increases. In fact, after I had my meeting with Adele and Anthony, we saw that the insurance is probably going to go up to about $24,000. But after my meeting last week, I was able to go in, and this was sent in obviously a week or so ago. This was before my budget meeting. We are looking at areas where we can shave off some, so the final number will not be as high as 264,957. I'm not there yet, though. And then I have all of my thank yous, all the wonderful people that I am part of a team with. It's amazing how hard everybody works and how well we all work together. And then lastly, we had 2 teams this year so far that have had undefeated regular seasons. The football team was 10-0 during the regular season this fall, and since I sent this presentation in, the wrestling season finished their regular season at 16-0. It's amazing just to have one team, but then to have 2 is unheard of. So it's just been pretty exciting, not just for these 2 teams, but all around for CV Athletics this year. And the spring season begins on March 3rd, so we have another third of the way to go. It's going to be a very exciting end to the season. Any questions?
The girls' flag football,
Yeah.
is that really the power of a Super Bowl commercial?
I don't know. It could be.
It's crazy to me that's like, I don't know.
It is. I know.
I know January like a pretty big buzz, for the women's sports thing and stuff. It's just funny that you said that, and I was like, that's the one commercial I
That's the
remember.
commercial. It could be. I know. It's amazing how, to be honest, I was surprised that the PIAA passed it, but they did. And now it's, again, like I said, it's the buzz. I don't know. And so many of my athletic director colleagues have been emailing around like, how many of you are seriously going to do this? Because we're just trying to get prepared for the pressure of having that sport. So.
I had a question on the summary spreadsheet or whatever that's that's attached. The miscellaneous costs, there's $23,199. Do you know what all is included?
I'm going to have to
In
look
that-
over at Adele. You're like
There-
looking behind you too.
Like very general costs. I don't think that includes the student accident insurance that we purchase for all students, including athletes. But it would just be some miscellaneous, even trainer costs for trainer supplies.
Okay, yeah, because there's no, there's no lines for any of the sports. So
Yeah,
it was
and
just,
that's probably mostly trainer costs that
Okay.
we can't allocate specifically.
I have a question. When you talk about clinics, what does that look like?
Yes, so the clinics are the PIAA education that's required for all the coaches.
Oh, got it. I know what you're talking about.
Yep,
I thought it was student oriented. Okay, got it. Understood.
and then I also, this year I wanted to add CPR training for the coaches as well, so that would be part of that as well.
I love that rise in the GPAs too. That's cool to see.
Like,
It's small.
No, yeah,
That's a jump.
it is a jump.
We'll take it.
be nice to see a year when the boys' GPAs match the girls.
We're getting there almost.
Are you at all concerned about new sports I know like when we took on lacrosse, our, our full participation didn't grow. We simply took certain athletic girls off of field hockey and they went into lacrosse. Are you concerned about a negative impact on some sports if we bring, say, flag football or?
I think it depends on what season it's in, and I do believe flag would be in spring. So yes, I am concerned about that. I'm not concerned about wrestling, girls wrestling, but if we were to add that, but for flag football, I would be concerned that there would be,
Yeah.
the girls are going to have to choose now, especially if it's a spring. So will they drop off the softball team? Will they drop off the lacrosse team? Will they drop off track?
Yeah,
So,
well-
and track, typically, we have enough participants on the track team, but still, I mean, we have some pretty talented track and field participants, and will they be making a choice now to leave track and go to another sport?
Because I know several years ago our full participation rate went up and now it's leveled off. And if the raw numbers are coming down, that percentage is going to start to go back down. It's really difficult to give every student every sport that they'd like.
Right, no, it's true, it's true.
Any other questions or concerns? If not, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This is the place in the budget. This is the place in the agenda. I've got the budgets on my mind. On the agenda where we welcome remarks from anyone in the public on item issues or on agenda issues. To anyone?
Yes, I would like to speak.
Yeah, come on. Would you, you can sit if you'd be more comfortable. Could we have your name, please?
Yep, it's Lisa Bartelt, Bartelt.
And you are a parent or resident of the
Yes.
district? Are you here representing a group or just yourself?
Just myself.
Okay, then you have the floor for
And-
3 minutes.
Yep, and I would like to speak about Agenda Item 6D, the first reading of district policies in the 100 range. I have some questions and concerns that I hope the board will clarify or answer before these policies are approved. Specifically, Policy 106, the guides for planned instruction. I'm wondering, how does this differ from the curriculum writing and planning that teachers are already spend hours doing? Who is creating the guide and or choosing the reading list of supplemental titles? What are the consequences if teachers are not following these guides? My concerns stem from some things that were said in November by board members Fisher and Kapka about needing reading lists for classes. And so it seems like a policy that is based on misinformation and fear that undermines the hard work that teachers put into lesson planning every single day. I'm wondering if teachers have been informed or notified about these policy changes, because the teachers that I spoke with expressed frustration that they might be held accountable to a standard that they're already doing this. And that doesn't seem to be the kind of environment that CV wants to create to attract and motivate innovative risk takers. If we are frustrating our teachers to the point of them wanting to find jobs in other districts or retire early, which was expressed to me by teachers that I spoke with. Similarly, Policy 107, the adoption of planned instruction, is this retroactive to all current courses? How does this also differ from curriculum writing? Both of these policies seem like they're going to be fits all for K through 12 instruction. I'm not sure how they would be applied to kindergarten, or high school, like evenly and equitably. which is, I think, a problem. I just think the public needs more information about all of these policies before they are adopted, and I was not sure if the board would just read the policies or if there would be any commentary on them before they are adopted in March. So I wanted to express my concerns and questions and invite the board to address those things before they're adopted. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And you gave quite a list of questions to start, and if you're signed in, and make sure that we have your contact number with the board secretary, someone will be in touch with you to answer all of those questions. As far as the board, this I will address. The Sunshine Law specifically explains that this is a business meeting and its only purpose is to take care of what's on our agenda. This is not a, this is not.
Sunshine Law does not express it. It says that you.
I'm sorry, I'm explaining this just now.
I just looked it up. It says that you may allow questions or may not allow exchange.
Yeah.
It doesn't prohibit you from doing it.
I wasn't finished what I was saying, okay? It specifically explains the purpose of this, although it doesn't stop us from answering questions. This is not a town hall meeting, and we will gladly engage in any discussion at the appropriate time. And you can contact any of us anytime you want to discuss this, and I'd be glad to do that. Is there anyone else? Yes. Could we have your name, please?
Hello, my name's Melissa Klingon. I am a resident and a parent. CB?
Last name?
Klingon, Clingan.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I had some questions as a resident and a parent. My oldest goes to the high school. My youngest is actually here at Smoketown. And I've been talking to the teachers over the last couple of years. I know that recently you guys decided to not adopt an ELA curriculum for the elementary, and they're doing sort of a kind of a piecing together sort of situation. And I just had some concerns about that because I had worked previously for the Lanco School District who had done that, and it was an absolute disaster for the 5 years that they had adopted that. And we saw our students' writing and reading scores plummet. So I just wanted to kind of bring that to your concern. I've talked to a couple of the special educators who they said there's no special ed reps on the committees that are deciding like this ELA, like curriculum stuff that they're doing in elementary. So some of the things that the elementary kids are getting in the elementary classroom, like they're not being appropriately modified or accommodated for special education students. So it's making the content even more difficult for them to access. So I think maybe looking into adding, some special education members onto that committee board, and just maybe reevaluating what we're doing for that. Because as I have a son in the elementary building here, I just have some concerns about what he's going to be learning and what curriculum they're going to be using, because is it going to vary drastically from teacher to teacher, from building to building? You kind of want them to be on the same page, and I just would like a little more clarification on what it is they're actually, like what are they using to supplement like with their curriculum. I know they're using Heggerty and like stuff for phonics, but I don't know for like reading comprehension and things like that in the older grades, what it is they're doing. So just some clarification on that. I also had a question about the policy of removing the, which was that policy 107? It was the one about the human development, removing that. I also was questioning that policy. Are we removing human development, like teaching in general, like completely? That was my question. I just wanted to ask you about that because I do have all of the state standards for Pennsylvania printed that discuss the requirements of teaching human development from kindergarten through 12th grade, and they vary, obviously, from grade level to grade level, depending on the appropriateness and the developmental appropriateness of each content, but they are state standards. So I was just curious if we're just like tossing human development completely out, or if we're just kind of changing that in the policy and maybe adding it somewhere else. I wasn't sure. Yeah, that was pretty much all I had.
Okay, thank you. And again, we will have an administrator that handles those programs get in touch with you to
Okay.
explain that, and they can review how we meet the state standards for human development.
Yeah, because it
Yes.
appears that we're just removing it from the
From the policy book.
policy, but I just wanted to see if, like,
Yeah, do that quickly.
Yeah, I can address policy 107 since that was brought up by both of you. Policy 107 primarily addressed like the parent's right to exempt their child from
Right.
human development. That language is now in the revised version of policy 105. That was not a district decision. PSBA does not maintain a policy 107. And so PSBA recommended retiring that policy.
Okay.
Because the language that addressed a parent's right to exempt their child from instruction is now, I believe, in 105 or whatever
was just
exemption
moved.
instruction. It was, correct.
Okay, that was just what I wanted.
Getting rid of the policy isn't removing it from the curriculum.
Perfect.
It's just that
Answered my
policy
question.
language isn't maintained by PSBA.
That makes sense. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Are there any comments from CVEA or other employee groups? If not, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Are there any concerns or comments on the consent agenda before we take that vote? If not, I'll take a motion.
Is that A through L, right?
Approval 5A through L.
So motion to approve the consent agenda 5 for A through L. Second.
Do we have a roll call vote, please?
Dr. Martin?
Aye.
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel?
Aye.
Mr. Eby?
Aye.
Mrs. Brock?
Aye. The agenda items all passed unanimously. Oh. I'm just going to say now the fun part.
Yes, the first of many budget discussions. I could just tell you're so excited, and you're going to be hanging on every single word. I'll make this brief.
Well, I won't hang on too tight because it's only the governor's budget.
Right, correct. And there's still a lot unknown because we know that typically the governor's budget doesn't get passed until after we're required to pass our budget. So we have to move forward with a lot of unknowns. So I'll do my best to break it down for you. So in listening to the governor's budget presentation the other week, and then also getting on a webinar with PASBO to obtain more information from them, it does appear that the governor is really focusing on funding public education again as one of his priorities, which is good news for us. So in looking at that slide here, it's a little confusing because I'm telling you that he's focusing on a lot of funding for education, but you can see we have very small increases to the basic education subsidy as well as the special education subsidy. So he's taking what statewide, what all the districts received in basic education funding from the current 24-25 year, and he's going to be adding $75 million to that pot. For CV, the way the formula is calculating out, that would give us an additional $128,000 for a total 25-26 of $8.5 million. So no, that's not a large increase for us, but we'll look at the next slide in a second. Under special education funding, he's adding $37 million to the pot. That drives out $53,000 for Conestoga Valley. For a total of $2.2 million. That's just over 2% increase for us. However, now, next slide. This is where it gets a little fun. If you recall the budget meetings, I know that you probably watch them all the time and go back and refer to them, right, Idette?
Sure, absolutely. Glued to the TV.
If you were to go back to the budget presentations last year, we were anticipating a large increase in our basic education subsidy. When the budget was approved by the state, instead of putting all of that subsidy into basic education, they rolled it into to the Ready to Learn grant. We've been receiving for years a straight amount of like $348,000 per year for Ready to Learn grant. What we have to do, because it's in that ready-to-learn bucket is we have to report to the state prior to the start of the year how we're going to spend those particular grant funds. And then at the end of the year, we have to report back to the state how we actually spent those grant funds. So in order to maintain accountability for school districts, because they were putting such a large amount into this ready-to-learn funding, they want us to be accountable for this big increase. So you can see at the very top line, there's our $348,000 that we received for many years. And in 24-25, current year, we got a boost of $1.4 million. And then we reported to the state at the beginning of this year how we were going to use that. And we were focusing on maintaining our math and literacy programs here at CV. So in looking at 25-26, what is being proposed, I have marked that it's a definite, but I say that with a little bit of a not quite sure yet. It looks like we're going to receive the same amount in 25-26 that we have for the current fiscal year. But what's not definite yet is how much additional funding we're going to receive. What they're proposing right now in the governor's budget is that we would receive an additional $1.4 million for a total of almost $3.2 million. So a lot of that is going to be determined as we go through the process. I do have a conference coming up in a couple weeks, and hopefully then we'll get some more information from some of the speakers there if they have any insight to what they think negotiations are going to be for that budget. Some other items that are in the budget this year is being proposed for more money for the physical and mental health grants, which we've received and have applied for the current year and the year before. Some monies in the school facilities improvement grants, which we've been looking into. Increase in pre-K counts funding. And what pleases me is that it looks like they want to continue funding the universal free breakfast program, which they have for several years now. So I hope that stays on the final budget. And then also they're proposing continuing the student teacher stipend program. We've had three, actually we just found out about a fourth student teacher now that qualifies for that stipend program. We received the funds from the state. We turn around and pay the student teachers. So it's encouraging students to join education. What surprised me that's not in the governor's budget is the cyber charter reimbursement. It's not included. That had been discontinued many years ago. And then in the 24-25 governor's budget that was approved, we got $100,000 to help offset the cost of the increasing in the tuition rate. So that's not going to be at this point in the budget. They are still talking about charter tuition reform. Again, there's some speculation about trying to go to a straight formula for all school districts to pay the same amount instead of having all the amounts varying. We'll find out as that goes along. What I did hear from one webinar was that they believe that cyber charter school reform might be some of the negotiating points in this upcoming budget. And then, of course, Plan-Com funding is not included in the budget. We were very fortunate with several of our projects with the middle school in Brownstown renovations and Smoketown that we were able to get into that pipeline, so to speak, before the Plan-Com moratorium hit years ago. So we're still receiving some funding on that, but for future projects, doesn't look like we'll receive any funding. And that is the governor's budget in a nutshell. Any questions?
I didn't go through enough detail myself, as you can suspect, but I didn't see any mention this year of an EITC contribution. Are they changing that or holding that steady?
I did not hear anything. I can look into that and then get back to you and let you know.
Because, I worry that the increase that the governor is proposing doesn't begin to touch what's happening in special ed.
That is very true.
Because that's been going up at least 5% a year, and we get 2%.
Yeah, that's very true. That is the one area where those costs just continue to increase. And obviously, what they're putting into the special education subsidy is not even close to matching our expenditure increases.
And as I understand the basic education funding, that there isn't a student in school today who will get the full advantage of that by the time they graduate at the rate we're going. I mean, they're really dragging their feet on that.
Yes.
And last, cyber charter schools. For 20 years, we've been arguing about the tuition costs.
Yes.
It hasn't budged. At some point, PSBA and those in advocacy should figure out that's not working. Nobody's listening, nobody's doing anything. And what I've been talking to them about is not what we pay, but what they produce. School choice, and you probably heard me say this before, school choice is not a synonym for better. And parents who are involved enough and concerned enough to want to see if there's something better for their students have the right to be told that there is not a cyber charter school in the state that does as well as the worst rated public school as far as student achievement. And they don't know that. And I think considering we are educational institutions, we should focus on that. Just my opinion.
I don't disagree. I mean, I do know that PASBO is very strong with advocacy. They would love to see some reform. The formula is formula is consistent. It just isn't fair that.
Oh, no one suggests if the formula is good. But as I said, after 20 years of arguing that point and no one listening or pretending they didn't listen, it's time for us to do something that's more productive and is in the best interest of the kids. Because student achievement is supposedly what we're all about.
Right.
That's the end of my sermon. Anyone have any questions? Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a great budget year from the state.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I will be back in a couple weeks with more budget information for
can't
you.
wait.
I know you can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We always get really complete and clear reports from you, and I appreciate that. Dr. Hartman, I understand you're going to review the calendar for us?
Absolutely, yes. I'm pinch hitting for Dr. Mann this evening, who had a family emergency. So kudos to Dr. Mann and Dr. Kozer and the rest of the cabinet who worked through the calendar process. I am not my mind, it doesn't have that mathematical way of looking at things. I'm not good at calendars. That's a Dr. Mann. He's a guru when it comes to this stuff. So appreciate his work and working with the team. We worked with our stakeholder engagement committee this year, which involves community members, parents, teachers on developing this. So a couple things going into it that like I said, I'm not a calendar guy. It's hard for me to look at, but a couple things I know that I kind of shared that I'd like to see in that as a team, just based on feedback from our community, is we'd like to try to get our end date a little bit earlier, more in line with what most districts are doing now. So I believe these calendars reflect that. We also wanted to, ensure that we're still protecting professional development time for our teachers. And then, as I've been sort of sharing for a while, going back to last year, ultimately what I'd like to see is I'd like to see our district approve a 2-year calendar so that moving forward, our public, our parents know what the school calendar is, not only for the current year they're in, but for the next year. And so then when we're next year, when we're approving the district calendar, we're actually approving it for the following year. So kudos to our team. That I didn't know if that was going to happen this year, but they were able to do a 2-year calendar. And so what we're bringing to the board is not only the academic calendar for 2025-26, but for 2026-2027 as well. We feel that there's a lot of benefits to that, but primarily it's just better for our parents, our community. Think of something like, knowing when the end of the school year is going to be, when sometimes you have to plan a vacation more than a year in advance anymore, or, you have family coming in from out of town for graduation and things like that. So I think the more ahead of the game we can be, the better. So we're proposing approval of a 2025-26 calendar as well as 26-27. But I will say, and I'm happy to answer any questions, but just a caveat with the 2025-2026 calendar, just before this meeting, we did notice a slight error. So if you are going to make a motion for approval of the calendar, I recommend you do so with the recommended. So before we get sticker shock on this, Arbiter Institute is an organization that does leadership development. We have sent several of our leadership team members to individual trainings with them. They're really well-renowned organization, top-notch. You won't find any negative reviews if you do any research on them. They're sort of the cream of the crop when it comes to organizational and executive leadership. We have the opportunity and we had the money in this year's budget in professional development that we didn't spend to bring them in to do the training that they've done with several of our administrators with our entire administrative team. So that's what I'm proposing that we do for our administrative retreat this year. So it's a 2-day training where, even though you see the price tag, keep in mind that is to provide training to all 30 plus members of our Act 93 team. Typically, when we've sent individuals to that training, it's between $2,500 and $3,000 for an individual training. So we're really getting a discount by having them come in and do it with at one time for our whole team. And it really is going to help kind of drive our leadership conversations as a team. Going back to what I said earlier, supporting our leaders. We're trying to help them support the way they lead our folks. So they're helping to build those positive climate and culture. So Dr. Kozer and myself have had several meetings with representatives from Arbiter and with the just found out who they're going to be sending here for the training, and we're really pleased with what they're going to offer. So I'm proposing this as, what this is for our administrative retreat in the summer. our 2-day retreat that we do. Keep in mind, if you recall last year, our team went to Gettysburg and did some leadership development on the battlefield. This will be in-house. We're not going anywhere for this. They're coming to us. We'll be staying in district and doing that. So it was a new idea, but the opportunity presented itself. So we're shifting around some of our professional development money that we had earmarked, but we're not asking for extra money that we don't have in professional development for this. So that'll be on the agenda for next week, but it is new.
It's on there
Oh,
for
we're approving tonight? So,
It's on there for approval
Okay.
tonight.
all right. Well, at the will of the board, if
Do I have a motion to approve item 6C?
Motion to approve item 6C. Second.
Could we have roll call for this, please?
Mrs. Kapka?
Aye.
Mr. Gensel? Mr. Eby?
Aye.
Mrs. Groff?
Aye.
Dr. Martin?
It's approved unanimously. Okay, folks, this is what we've been waiting for. It took us long enough to get here. First reading of the 100 policies. I think if we just go down through them quickly, we can slide over those that have no concerns. And I don't want to get halfway through and have somebody want to go back earlier. So, Policy 100, Comprehensive Plan, any problem? No? We are skipping the vision and values and mission statement because that's being redone. And we are
I think it's
putting-
it's still on for approval, but we can
Oh,
remove it.
you wanted to approve even though we're going to be changing it?
It's recommended, but
Okay,
it may or may
yeah.
not change down the road.
No, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. Items 103 through 104 are all on hold. Awaiting some guidance on those. 105 curriculum. 105-1 and 2. 106. 107 and 8. Are they on hold? Or they're elsewhere?
No.
I don't think they were listed
Yes,
on
they
the,
are. 107, 108 are good, are,
I'm sorry, what?
107 and 108 are,
They are on there. 109 and 109-1, 110. 111, I don't think was listed.
111's not listed.
that is correct.
Is that on hold or are we going to? Oh,
It's on
okay.
hold.
112 is deleted. For a new 112, 113 through. I'm going to go through 115. One 16, there was a note in one of the earlier reviews we got. Are we keeping 116 on tutoring?
We are. Yep.
Okay. 117 is deleted.
There's no.
117. 118. My only thing with 118, I think it should have included that it can be suggested, topic for independent study can be suggested by the student. I think when they presented it last week, they mentioned that oftentimes the student comes up with what they want. I'd like to have just that phrase, or by the student added to that, if anyone has no objection. 119, 120, and I had made a note myself on 120 as to just when and how human development is incorporated. You didn't think we'd come back to that, did you? Where does that fall in the curriculum?
It's within our health and phys ed
It's just
curriculum primarily,
blended
yeah.
In there,
Yeah.
okay. So if you wanted to know what was involved in that curriculum, you'd have to
Right.
get that one, okay.
It's just not a PSBA recommended policy, just like we don't have a school board policy for math
Yeah.
or social studies.
Yeah.
It was kind of unique that
It
we had a policy
falls
for
in- It falls in with the rest of it
Yeah.
and follows state standards, I assume.
Correct.
Okay. 121 is being held, as is 122, or 122 and 23, am I right? Field trips,
Correct. Yeah, and just to clarify, the reason that those are we're pulling those right now, those are all, they have health-related components that we want our nurses, our certified school nurses to take a chance to give feedback on those policies before we bring them forward. So, 111, for example, is field trips, like, lesson.
okay. Both of what, the 120, all three of the 123s, 124 is deleted. And we now have a new 124. 125, 126, 127, 130. I have a question about 130. Do we have specific guidelines as to just what is an appropriate amount of homework
Do that by level.
by level? Okay, that's by administrative guideline?
Yeah, I don't think we have an admin reg for that at this point, but I think it's addressed through our handbooks at the different levels of what's appropriate. So,
Oh, it's more in the faculty handbook? Okay. 131 is replaced by 109.1, so we'll skip that one. 134. My copy says it is deleted, but I thought it was listed. So are we keeping 134 or, oh, it's been moved.
134 becomes 217.
217, yes. 137, all of them are not there.
That's because they were previously done.
Oh, were they in another section altogether?
Home education.
Home
When the
education.
state changed
Oh.
home education and students.
Gotcha.
can participate.
138, 39 is moved elsewhere. 40 through 43, I think, are pretty standard unless someone has a concern about one of those issues. I'm trying to do this in small groups, so if you people are pretty happy with this. 144 and 46. 150. That's it. There was, I don't think I missed it. No. If no one wants to go back or ask questions on any of them, although it's not necessary, we are in the habit of voting first reading.
I did want to, just one comment about, I notice anytime we are eliminating a policy, we make reference that the language can now be found in another policy. The only one that doesn't state that, which I'm going to add to some confusion, is 120. Because we eliminated that, this is the one about the human development piece, but it's specifically about the parent exception, which is then in, you had mentioned earlier, I think
105.2.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
can we make a reference on that one that points back to the reason it was eliminated is because the language is in 105.2?
Where would that be noted if if it's being eliminated? That's,
Well, almost all of them, like if you go to policy, like even policy 134, policy language can now be found in draft policy 217. Like there's some kind of a note that references something?
So you're saying when I upload next time for second reading, have that note on the actual
Yeah,
policy?
just to
when you
avoid
open it up and you
confusion.
see it?
Yeah, because I know that helps me when I'm like, why are we retiring that? Oh, it points to the policy it's being added to, or maybe the language is already in there, whatever it might be. But policy 120 doesn't, it just says it eliminates it, but it doesn't say why. And since that one came up, if there was clarification that that was referencing another policy specifically, it should have note that this is addressed in 105.2 or whatever. That's all I'm
No.
suggesting. Again, it's just a clarity thing, especially because the public are viewing it, just to make sure it's clear as to why that's being eliminated.
Sure.
Just that paper that Odette has that we get as policy, can something like that be uploaded? So it's, I mean, it's just, if somebody has a question on like policy 109, they can quick reference that chart.
Oh, the catalog.
Yeah, the catalog.
that's
I don't
attached-
know if there's
attached-
confidential stuff that we need to delete, but just, because that might be just a quick reference guide, so you don't have to put it in every single policy.
It is there.
It's
Oh, is it there?
yeah, if you look at your agenda, it's the last one.
It's the cross-reference.
Oh,
The
wow.
very bottom.
Should put that at the top.
It used to be, earlier when we did.
Table of contents goes at the beginning.
No, I thought it was missing two at first, so I found it all the way at the bottom. It used to be the first one listed. I don't know why it got switched, but yeah, it is, it's the handiest thing. And of course, we have a couple of board members who like it printed, so I print it out for them, which I would do for anyone that felt they wanted it. Are we going to approve these tonight, folks?
What's that?
Are we going to approve this first reading?
Sure.
Then I would need a motion.
Motion to approve the first reading of the 100 program policies
As presented.
as presented.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? If not, then they are approved. There were probably less concerns about how these were written in some of the earlier ones we've gone over. That's always good. Okay, finance and operations report. Does anyone have any comments? The curriculum instruction reports. If not, it's back to Dr. Hartman if he has any comments on federal funds.
We do. Dr. Kozer, did you want to share about federal programs?
Absolutely. So you have a list attached to the federal programs report of our current stakeholder advisory committees. So this is a piece through our comprehensive plan that we're asked to put together a group of stakeholders who, through the duration of that plan, provide feedback and input. We're also working with this team to accomplish some of the other goals that we are looking for feedback around, such as our federal programs, consolidated application, our Act 48 professional learning plan. So we have been meeting with this group. We worked very closely with Vice President Martin because there are some members of the committee that need to be invited by the school board, and so we were able to get her input on that as well. And this group has been meeting every other Wednesday. We'll have three meetings this year, 4 meetings starting next year, to accomplish that goal of getting meaningful stakeholder input. So they helped us with the calendar draft, gave us some perspective on the parent-teacher conference conversation, things like that. And then we'll be working with them on several other district topics throughout the next month.
Questions? Board reports. I apologize for how late the IU reports got posted, but I just got them this afternoon from them. I would add to it, if you look over it, we are looking at some reorganization of our administration to make sure we have the right number of people in all the places. They've also added a new initiative where they're going to be examining future challenges, costs, especially special ed, providing enough staffing, and the increased number of students. And if they come up with some good solutions, I can't wait to hear that one. But it would be interesting. PSBA, I don't think there's anything especially new on the PSBA report. And Lancaster County Academy will meet again next month. Is there a construction committee update? Nothing?
What I can tell you is that Mr. Johnson and I are working on a different format for providing construction report updates for you.
Okay.
And so we'll revisit this again next month. As far as we know, everything seems to be going very smoothly with the Leola renovations. They're on time
And in budget?
and within budget, yeah. Other than some skyrocketing.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that always happens.
Yes.
Any other reports? I would mention from the Conestoga Valley Education Foundation, you got the notice from their distinguished alumni. This is coming up. This is the next time in the agenda where the public may make comments on any issue on or off the agenda. Is there anyone that would like to address the board? Do we have a vice president's report? No. Are there any board comments or announcements to be made, board concerns to be brought up? If not, you have the dates. And we have some things coming. Spring, actually, I know it doesn't feel that way, but spring's going to be upon us soon enough. And we do have some dates to spring, the Freight Farm and the legislative breakfast. You should have on your calendars if you can make it. And don't forget to RSVP those. That much said, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn to executive, or just to adjourn?
No executive session. Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Would you stay for just, I promise.